Y'all ready for a one taker? All of this DOGE stuff that's going on right now is getting ridiculous, especially with the NOAA and National Weather Service reductions and all of the stuff that they're coming out with. I'm going to start this off by saying I'm not a very political person. I believe that both sides are kind of out for their own interests, and a two-party political system is fundamentally flawed. But all that aside, what's going on with DOGE and this government efficiency thing and what they're doing to the National Weather Service is just kind of crazy. And it's going to have disastrous consequences if things aren't going to change from the current course that they're on. Announced today, March 3rd, 2025, they basically came out and said that they're not renewing the leases. DOGE saying that they're not renewing the leases on the facility at National Weather Service, College Park, Maryland, which is like the Weather Prediction Center. It's like one of the main central hubs of the National Weather Service, and a couple other facilities that are key to the infrastructure of the National Weather Service and NOAA. What this means is that the heart, the nucleus, the brain of the National Weather Service, these big server rooms, all this type of stuff, all this architecture that has been developed over years and years and years in these buildings, eventually they're just cutting the lifeline to this. And what this means, grand scale, is all of the data that these entities process, all of the observations from weather stations around the globe, from weather readings from aircraft, satellites, radar, all of this raw information is processed through servers in these buildings. And while they are used to make forecasts on the National Weather Service side and on the NOAA side, all this type of stuff, they're also used by the private sector. Companies like AccuWeather, the Weather Channel, MyRadar, whatever weather forecast company that makes forecasts and stuff like that, they're all reliant on the data that is processed by these facilities. So if you're severing the connection of what's happening at these facilities, you're also killing private sector meteorology. The weather app on your phone, for goodness sake, relies on this information. So I don't understand, if the whole goal of this whole project is to reduce government waste and efficiency and all these buzzwords that they're throwing around, what kind of analytical approach did you take in order to come to this conclusion that this needed to be done in order to make things more efficient? I mean, you can look very easily at like the defense sector, for example, which is 30% of our national budget. I'm sure there's a lot more that's going on there, when if you look at the average taxpayer, what the NWS and NOAA garners per year from taxpayer money is like $3 on average. So, a cup of coffee a year to fund the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, understand all the things that are happening in this globe that we live on, I feel like that's a worthwhile investment. And if you actually look at the support of NOAA and the NWS on a government level, it is the most bipartisanly supported entity in all of the government. So why are we starting to cut things seemingly chaotically with no ramification or thought in their minds? It's just the most asinine thing I've ever seen on a government level. And obviously, my daily life is around doing stuff with weather data. So of course I'm going to be freaking out about this, but I don't think people realize that your weather app or all of these things that we use to predict the weather are centrally dependent on the infrastructure built by NOAA and the National Weather Service. So to start cutting this stuff somewhat, what seems blindly, is just insanity. And I can't get my head around what is happening. So this all is happening right now. There's all sorts of crazy, government stuff going on right now that is just, crushing to see. People losing their jobs and stuff like that. It's tough. to watch. I've known friends now that have lost their jobs at the National Weather Service just last week due to the first round of cuts to the agency. So it's just what's being cut in an already understaffed National Weather Service. Many of the work forecast offices around the country are understaffed, and they're reducing all the probationary staff, the people that are most excited to get their careers going. It just makes no sense to me why they're cutting this type of stuff out of the national budget when it's already the most beneficial branch and bipartisanly supported. The amount of investment that goes into the National Weather Service is actually probably the most, in terms of probably the best funded agency in terms of protecting, national interests on a broad scale, maybe besides some aspects of the defense sector. But it's like, think about how much of the economy is dependent on weather, and all of these forecast products that are being made. How much has been saved in the economy thanks to National Weather Service and NOAA products understanding the weather and, making decisions on protecting lives and the economy. It's just, I'm like ranting now at this point, obviously, but it's just insanity to me. Batshit insanity that we're cutting the nucleus of something that stimulates and supports the growth of the economy in such a way that understanding the weather does through the National Weather Service and NOAA. And obviously, I've been kind of emphasizing in the economy because that's what the government efficiency thing wants to look at, right? But however, the other thing, and probably most important thing, is that people's safety depends on the products of the National Weather Service and NOAA. If you start putting those things into the hands of private sector roles, I don't know, like, AccuWeather, for example, has their own suite of warnings that you can pay a subscription for. If you start reducing the capability of, public safety information in terms of tornado warnings, for example, and, you kind of use this AccuWeather model of putting them behind a paywall almost, if you're just strictly doing that, I mean, it's ethically insane to me. I like how I'm just sewering AccuWeather right now. I know people that work for them and they're great people, but if you put things in the hands of private companies when it comes to safety and stuff like that, there's a reason why things like OSHA and the National Weather Service exist in terms of public safety. And to start seemingly aimlessly cutting things from it just is really scary. And it does not seem at all that the ramifications were at all considered when this started taking place. So if you're an executive at AccuWeather, I'm sorry to use you in that example. Don't take it personally. It's just whatever. I just completely sewered myself from ever working with AccuWeather if the opportunity ever presented itself, but who knows anyway. Anyway, I'm ranting at this point. I wanted to make a video about it. Here it is, me ranting about this. It's incredibly frustrating from someone that uses weather data frequently for what I do. And I hope that if you're not someone that follows the weather forecasting realm, you just use your radar app or your weather app on your phone to get your information, just know that what's going on right now will directly affect the information that you need to understand your weather. And that's just because of negligence from my perspective in terms of what's being cut in the name of government efficiency. In fact, it's quite the opposite of efficiency at the end of the day. So that's it for me ranting for now. Again, sorry to the people of AccuWeather. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus. This is crazy. This whole thing seems ridiculous. So, anywho, mic drop.